Hey guys, Brian delivers you the goods here. Sorry that I didn't return to you last night for the next part for best albums of 2022. I was having to work this morning and I went to Denny's last night and had some pretty good food. So basically, I'm returning to you this afternoon for the continuation of best albums of 2022, but this is for part 3 from numbers 41 to whatever number I get to on this list. So this might be a couple parts left or so after this video. So I will be going into numbers 41 to whatever number I get to on this list for today's best albums of 2022 and let you know my thoughts on each album that I mentioned or EP or whatever. So let's dive into this best albums of 2022 part 3 video. Number 41 is Bullet for My Valentine with self-titled deluxe. Now, I had some interesting songs on here like um, No More Tears to Cry, I believe is one of them, and uh, there was the other one I can't remember, to be honest. I haven't really come back to this deluxe edition in quite a bit, but I remember enjoying it. So at number 41 is Bullet for My Valentine with self-titled deluxe. It's definitely pretty interesting of a listen, and definitely recommend checking it out for yourself to see what you think of it. Number 40 is Red Handed Denial with I'd Rather Be Asleep. Now this was a pretty good album for sure. I really enjoyed how Lauren Babbitt's singing and screaming in this album sound. White Water is a really good song, and also Father Said is pretty good, and Cloud Nine was something. Wasn't amazing, but it was interesting of a listen. So White Water was probably my favorite, and then they made another music video for one of the regular songs, but I didn't watch that music video because it looked a little cheesy, in my opinion. But still, this album was pretty good for what they went for with this album. So I think they did a pretty good job. This album came out back on June 3rd, and I highly recommend you check out I'd Rather Be Asleep by Red Handed Denial. And Lauren Babbitt's cleans and scream vocals are great in this album. So at number 40 is Red Handed Denial with I'd Rather Be Asleep. Number 39 is Bleed From Within with Shrine. Now, I remember checking this album out when it came out back on June 3rd, and I was really interested with this album. I was really invested in it, and I really enjoyed it. I think it's a pretty good album. I wouldn't call it the best album, but still made it on my best albums for sure. So at number 39 is Bleed From Within with Shrine. I don't remember all the songs in my honest opinion, but I remember enjoying it for sure. At number 38 is Miss May I with Curse of Existence. Now, this was a pretty good album for sure. Highly recommend you check it out. It came out back on September 2nd of this year, and you can definitely go check out my album review for it if you haven't seen it. I think you will enjoy it. I released it like almost 4 months ago because it is almost 2023. By next Sunday, it will be. But still, at number 38 is Miss May I with Curse of Existence. Haven't really returned to this album in quite a bit, but I remember liking it for sure. At number 37 is One OK Rock with Luxury Disease. Now, I was really impressed with their new album. Free Them was a really good song with a featured artist in it, and the featured artist Teddy uh, something. I can't remember his last name. Uh, did pretty well with his vocals. I was really enjoying how he was singing the song along with Taka singing that track. Out of Sight is my favorite. Prove is one of my favorites, probably my all-time favorite from the album. But mainly Out of Sight and Prove are the top favorites from that album. And Renegades was pretty good. along with Save Yourself. Neon was something. It wasn't great, but it was solid. And then you have the fourth track, When They Turn the Lights On. I think is what it was called. But it wasn't my favorite song, but it was something. Let Me Let You Go, I believe, is another one that I listened to. So Far Gone was pretty good, along with Vandalize. And Wonder and Your Tears Are Mine were pretty good tracks, along with the deluxe edition, Broken Heart of Gold and Gravity. So, really enjoyed it for the whole album as a whole. So, at number 37 is One OK Rock with Luxury Disease. Alright, at number 36 is The Devil Wears Prada with Color Decay. Now, I have returned to this album quite a bit more, and I really like this album. I think it's a pretty good album for what I went for. So, I highly recommend you check this album out if you haven't listened to it this year. Salt was my favorite song. Exhibition was really good. Watchtower was really good. Broken was amazing. Noise was pretty good. Trapped has grown on me a lot more. I think the only weakest song was Fire, and I think it was Hallucinate, if I remember correctly. They were not bad songs, they just weren't my favorites, in my honest opinion. So at number 36 is The Devil Wears Prada with Color Decay. Definitely recommend checking this album out for sure. Sacrifice is a great track. Time is one of the best songs off this album. 25 is pretty gloomy of a track, but does pretty well with the overall sound. And give me a second, guys. My mom's calling me. Sorry, guys. My mom was calling me for a brief moment. She needed to talk to me about something. But basically, yeah, Devil Wears Prada, Color Decay was a really good album. The last song, Cancer, was pretty dark, but interesting song to close out the album. It did pretty well, in my personal opinion. So at number 36 is The Devil Wears Prada with Color Decay. Number 35 is Parkway Drive with Darker Still. Now, this was a pretty good listen. I like Land of the Lost. Stranger was a really weird song for sure. And yeah, Glitch has grown on me a lot more than I thought it would. I really like that song now. It just took a lot of time to grow on me because when I first heard it back in June this year, I was a little hesitant on the track, but I remember thinking, okay, maybe this might grow on me, and it eventually did. So, Glitch is an all time favorite song, and also, like Napalm's really good, and the first track, Ground Zero, is very amazing, along with The Greatest Fear, Darker Still is great. The title track is amazing. It's a long epic song, but it does pretty well. And If a God Can Bleed was one of my least favorites, but Soul Bleach really brought it back to a really good standard and made the rest of the album continue to be very amazing. From the Heart of the Darkness was a really great song, and there was quite a bit. Imperial Heretic was amazing too. But like I said, Land of the Lost is still my favorite from this album. So at number 35 is Parkway Drive with Darker Still. I definitely want to buy this album on CD for sure, but I gotta wait a little bit until I have enough money to blow for that uh, Darker Still album, but still. At number 34 is Dance Gavin Dance with Jackpot Juicer. Now, I did not think this be on my best albums when I first heard it, because I was a little unsure about the album. But Long Nights in Jail is a great song, along with Pray to God for Your Mother. Also, Cream of the Crop was pretty good. For the Jeers is amazing. Holy Ghost Spirit is one of my favorites. Pop Off was really good. And Feels Bad was I think it's called Feels Bad or whatever. I'm not 100% sure. Feels Bad Man or something like that. I can't remember what the song name was called. You'll have to remind me in the comment section below. There were a lot of songs they offered from this album. Have a Great Life was a really good track to close this album out, and I really enjoyed it. This was an hour and 3 minutes long of an album, but it did very good, and I really enjoyed this album for what they offered. Tilian's vocals in this album, which I think he's on hiatus from this band right now due to wanting to be on hiatus, which it's a shame, but yeah, he still was a great singer for the band, and I really enjoyed this album this year. So at number 34 is Dance Gavin Dance with Jackpot Juicer. Alright, at number 33 is Sleeping with Sirens with Complete Collapse. I did listen to this album today at work, and I really did enjoy this album. Tyrants is a great song. Kellen Quinn's screaming vocals and his clean vocals with his really loud pitch girl voice vocals. Sounds weird, but it does very well. And I think they pulled off a pretty good album this time around. Grave is one of my favorite songs from the album. And Apathetic is pretty solid. Along with, what's the next song? Us was solid. Not the best song, but it was interesting. Family Tree was really good, along with Let You Down featuring Charlotte Sands, and Be Happy featuring Royal and the Serpent was really good. Crosses featuring Spencer Chamberlain was amazing. Bloody Knuckles was great. Control Alt Delete was amazing. There's quite a bit they offered from this album. Complete Collapse, the title track, was my favorite song too. And yeah, Mr. Nice Guy was a pretty good song. But I gotta say, I'm giving the final song one of the best songs of this year for sure from this album. I really enjoyed this track for what it delivered. So at number 33 is Sleeping with Sirens with Complete Collapse. Number 32 is Fit for a King, The Hell We Create. Now, this was a pretty good album for sure. It didn't make it into my actual top 30 or below that, but it still did pretty good. It's in the top 40 or around there, in the lower 30s, but still did pretty good. You have Eyes Roll Back, which is one of the best metalcore tracks on this album. Reaching Out was really good. Fracture was amazing, even though it kind of got repetitive. I think Reaper was the one that got very repetitive when it relied on the chorus too much, in my personal opinion. But I still think it's a good track, just has its solid cuts because the chorus gets really redundant and repetitive, in my opinion. But that's what they went for with the track. But it still impressed me, the album. The Hell We Create, the title track is great. And The Other Side was one of the best songs off this album. And Falling Through the Sky was a great song. Times Like This is my personal favorite song. I know some Rockin' with Robbie that I watched didn't like that song, which I'm like, that's your opinion. But I personally like it. It may have kind of a juvenile attitude, the track, but I like how they set up the song with Jonathan Vigil from The Ghost Inside, which I do gotta check out The Ghost Inside in due time. But still, at number 32 is Fit for a King with The Hell We Create. Alright, at number 31 is Ocean's 8 Alaska with Disparity. Now, this was a pretty good album, for sure. I remember listening to it back in August or September 1st, I think. I think I listened to it August 31st when I first got the album, but I know it came out September 1st on all platforms, streaming platforms, but it was a pretty good album. I can't remember all the tracks from it, but I remember enjoying it, and I highly recommend you check this album out. You can definitely go check out my album review if you haven't seen it earlier this year, which was back in September, on September, I think it was August 31st, if I remember correctly, reviewing it then, or September 1st, I'm not sure, but still. At number 31 is Ocean's 8 Alaska with Disparity. Alright, at number 30 is Bad Omens with The Death of Peace of Mind. Now, this was a pretty good album. Concrete Jungle is a great song, even though they went a little melodic with this new album. I still think they pulled it off with what they were going for with this album. It is 15 tracks long, so it is about a 53-minute album, but it did pretty well. I think the only track that I wasn't sure if I liked was What It Costs, and Who Are You was pretty solid. And also there was another one like I think it was Somebody Else, I believe it was called. Yeah, I believe that's what it was called. But Concrete Jungle, Like a Villain was great. Then you have Nowhere to Run. Nowhere to Go, I meant to say. Sorry, I said it wrong. But Nowhere to Go was pretty good. And then Take Me First was pretty good. And The Death of Peace of Mind, the title track, is amazing. Still to this day. Artificial Suicide is one of the best songs. The only song I might have had an issue with was the 13th track on the album. I didn't hate the song. It is pretty good. It's just, I'd still give it a 5 out of 5, even though I have some critiques on it. But I think the final song, Miracle, was really good. And The Gray and Just Pretend was great. And also, Bad Decisions was amazing. So, really enjoyed this album for what it delivered. And it did pretty good in my opinion. So, at number 30 is Bad Omens with The Death of Peace of Mind. I'm going to have to return to you for part 4 of the best albums of 2022 video. So I hope you can understand why I have to cut it off here. But I have like about 30 albums left to talk about. So part 4 will be coming out pretty soon. But until then, I hope you enjoyed this part 3 video for best albums of 2022. I did the best I could to make it as good as possible. Had a lot more albums to talk about in this video, but still, well, a little less than I did from the last video, but still, definitely tune in to the next part for sure for part 4 of best albums of 2022. And as always, I will see you in the next part of best albums of 2022 video.